I'm running out of storage on this StreamYard thing.
Oh, really? So it doesn't just delete old videos after it posts them?
No, it just stops saving the videos and it just live streams.
Oh, weird.
I mean, the videos are saved on Twitch and YouTube. So
Yeah, I suppose you can.
I I am hating. Yeah, I'm sure it's not just Azure. I'm hating the complexity of cloud computing and all the access permissions and trying to figure out how to set them and figuring out that it is an access permission and then trying to figure out how to set them and the myriads of ways to try to set a permission. Like, it is so confusing to me, man. That's why I up my hourly rate. My God, man, the number of Stack Overflow questions that I post, the number of Microsoft support tickets that I open, like, mad respect to people that have Azure certifications dealing with the sysadmin stuff, because that stuff is just cumbersome, man. Like that word,
Yeah,
cumbersome.
I think it depends on what you like to do. I know people who geek the hell out about that kind of stuff, and they dig in. And
God,
I was explaining to my manager, I'm like, all that stuff for me is like a necessary evil. Everything down to writing the code is just a necessary. It's a cost center of what we do, right? Because
it's
it's what
so
sucks our
granular,
time.
man.
Yeah,
You go down this rabbit hole. Like at a high level, I just want to say, read, write. That's it. Man, you get like freaking six, 8 dozen different flags that have a different like breadcrumb path to where you go in Azure portal to set that. And I mean, forbid that you want to be automated and you don't want to go through the Azure portal. You want to be able to just, in my case, write C sharp code to do all that, to automate all that. And it's just, this is taking me for, you know what? This is one of the reasons why I think when I apply to Y Combinator and if they decide to interview me and they say barriers to entry, I say freaking Azure configuration or cloud computing configuration because it is. I spent all of yesterday messing around with bearer tokens, trying to figure out why I was getting an unauthorized response when I would try to do the simplest like RESTful call. And I still didn't resolve it. I had to open up a Microsoft ticket for that. Like I'm sick and tired of sysadmin like effort. I just want to get this thing out. Like I'm
yeah,
done, Dante.
yeah. I can't stand that stuff either. It's just painful. There's no way.
The
Just give everything root, man. Then you'll be fine.
agency called me yesterday for an Azure architect role. They asked me for my bill rate. I'm like 135. And they're like, "Are you flexible?" No. It
Upward,
was
you just said upward flexible.
like
Yeah.
because I was frustrated with trying to diagnose why things used to work and now they don't work when I automate my infrastructure
Hmm.
via Pulumi. And I'm like, mad respect for people that are able to get all the stuff out in production in an automated way without manually going through the Azure portal to set flags. F that. I'm frustrated, man. I burnt all of yesterday, all of it, and I still didn't get it done.
Clearly should have used bicep instead. No,
You
I'm
know
just kidding.
what? Someone responded on LinkedIn telling me I should. Someone sent me. I don't know if it was LinkedIn. Someone told me to use Bicep. It doesn't matter, does it?
I
You
don't know.
still have to have that flag set.
Yeah, no, I don't know, man. So it's
I'm
like you've
so
got
agitated right
like
now.
an Azure Active Directory user or
Oh
something, and
my
you need to go in and
god.
give it permission to basically adjust your infrastructure. Is that how this all works?
At a high level, yes, but it's
Yeah,
way more complicated and way more granular.
gotcha. So they don't have like tiers of
Imagine, okay, you've looked at like a flight deck, where
yeah.
all the buttons above, in front, and on the sides. That's what I feel like right now. Like, which button am I supposed to flip in order to get this simple, stupid thing to work? By
The red
default,
one.
by default, everything should be enabled until you decide to disable it. And I mean, I'm sure the argument is, well, you can't do that. You just, well, maybe you can. I don't know,
There
man. I'm
should
just
be like a
tired of
top.
this.
I mean, it should be like if it's ever been anything like I have, there's like top level permissions that you should be able to set, and then you drill into specific applications. So if it's in the way I assume it is, like where it's action based or whatever, or activity based, that it should be like at a top level you give this user a group permissions against everything, and then you can go in and say, but explicitly deny this, 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 and this, and then it's fine. Or you
That's the way it
set
should be, and
explicitly
maybe it
deny
is
and then
like that.
explicitly. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen the permissions table in Azure before to know how that
Oh my
works.
God. Freaking
Do you have a
Bob
dummy
storage
example?
contributor, storage table contributor. Like, you got to add all these different contributors. I, I, c- I have an example, but all these, all of these like access IDs are sprinkled within the Azure
They
portal,
actually just show them like here.
and I don't want to show that. Like, if I show my Azure portal, it's going to show sensitive like details that some hacker, if they really cared about increasing my cost on Azure, could really give me a effed up day
Well, it
if
sounds
they
like they
put
could
two and two
increase your
together.
cost by pinging your endpoints enough, probably.
No, there's a rate limiter, but
Man,
I'm just tired,
I
man.
remember
Like,
Azure being a lot more friendly before, like
it probably is to other
a
people,
decade ago.
but I'm just having
Not a
a,
decade ago,
hey,
but
gambler,
actually, it is almost a
this is
decade
like,
ago. I had it.
I don't know, I am so close to getting this thing done. Like, right now,
You said that so
a
many times,
dozen,
man.
I have like a dozen Visual Studio sessions running on my laptop because I have to use the debugger on localhost because I have like unauthorized posts responses if I try to reach out to the deployed functions. And so my computer is like hella slow because of all these sessions that I have running locally. And like, I tested it more or less on my laptop with the local host, and it's working. Like, the whole Pulumi spin up from nothing, and now I have a data an environment, and then I launch my customer app, I launch my courier app, and I say go order this, and then they're talking, sending messages back to each other, and I'm observing it through the UI. It's working. I just can't get it to work while all that stuff is deployed, and I talk to an Azure website's deployed function app or suite of function apps, and I get a unauthorized. I'm like, you, man, I'm like tired, man.
You sure it's not the code?
My website's almost done. They showed me like the work in progress. That's looking good. Like, I'm damn near ready to go, man. I have until April 7th to apply to Y Combinator with the high probability of them declining. But I'm just happy.
So
I'm just
is it
ecstatic that I
this
got to this level.
like basically?
What am I looking at?
Is this this is Azure portal? Is this the
Oh, you're
section
cool.
you're
You
in?
have a dark theme on yours. Um, you are looking at
Is this the roles and
this is an active directory, is it?
yeah, this is the roles and administrators all roles, but
Oh, yeah, I'm not familiar with that view. I go to
I don't
Active
have anything in my
Directory.
Azure anymore,
I
so
go to Active Directory, and then app registrations,
Oh, don't look at
or
my tenant
enterprise.
ID. No,
Yeah, I know.
it's
That's
fine.
why I don't like showing my stuff.
Actually, I don't know. Does that matter? I guess I could.
I mean, the more details they have, the more that
Yeah, I don't
it
have
increases
anything in
risk.
here, so I don't even have it registered for stuff. So, um, which one do you go to?
There's two that I go back and forth with. There's app registrations, and then there's
Oh, okay.
the other one is enterprise apps. And I kind of go back and forth, not knowing which one's which for what I need to accomplish. And
Oh,
so with
I
the
see.
app registrations, you create some item, and then you assign roles to that item, such as table storage contributor, blob storage contributor, table reader, blob reader. Like, you would think that contributor would include reader. I don't know, man.
Oh,
Like,
so you go to app roles here.
yeah. Well, no. You go to no. You go to where's app registrations?
Oh, sorry. Oh God, where to go?
You got to go to Active Directory. So go to hamburger menu and then Active Directory, and then you go to there should be like an app registrations right there, left up left in the left pane.
Oh, over here.
Yeah,
I see.
app registrations, and then that's one, and then the enterprise applications also in the navigate. So you go two nodes up, enterprise applications. No, in your pane, pane,
Okay, I got you.
and then yeah, my those
These are
two
all dead,
items is what I
anyways.
interact with, but I don't know what I don't know what
Oh,
I'm really doing.
so you assign users and groups to it, and then you give
No, I'm
those.
not
No.
assigning users or groups. I'm assigning like what's it called? I'm assigning roles. or- I
Roles
create
and
I create a member, and then I assign like roles to that member.
hmm,
And those are literally like the terminology, member and roles.
weird. Because I see users
I'm
and like
so done with
groups or
this,
user
man.
roles. Yeah, yeah. This stuff is it gets to be really confusing.
I mean, when I manually configure all this stuff in the Azure portal, like I did, I don't know, 3 years ago, like yeah, it's quote unquote straightforward. But when I'm constrained by a IAC way of doing things, writing code, it kind of constrains me to include security. And now it takes forever for me to figure out why I can't get certain things done because of the security aspect.
Yeah.
But this has to be automated, man. I mean, I believe it has to be automated in order for me to quickly iterate and measure and all this other stuff. I can't manually deploy a dev environment, a test environment, a prod environment every single time I fix a bug or I have partial feature that I want to include, even if it's dormant until I finally like enable the feature toggle. Like I can't manually do this,
Mhm.
but this is a pain. So
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. Dang. It's rough.
I swear to God, I'm this close to being done. So
What would it say? Like we had this thing in college, and it was like the first, or no, maybe this is just a general trope. It's like the first 99% take 1% of the time. The last 1% takes 99% of the time, or whatever. So you're
yeah,
almost done, but you're in the long stretch part.
I've been 90% done 4 years for the last 4 years, but
Yeah. Oh, Gambler's on. He's like, what, a Thursday? What's going on?
yeah. Then the next part is I'm done. I finally made it over the finish line. This is my technical marathon. Yes. No downloads.
Yeah. You you basically finish the finish line at the marathon and fall over into a wheelchair and poop yourself. That's what'll happen. No. Hey, gambler. I got a fishing thing I'm going to this weekend, so that's why we're going on Thursday this week.
Oh, you know what? I didn't realize that's what he meant by Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday today. 2/2/28. Tomorrow will be 23/23. 23/23 in the U.S. anyways for a date. 23/23.
I jump back in the stock market
Uh, I should probably do
after
that.
after observing my burn rate. Like what? I don't know if it's been 6 weeks since my last contract, but I still have like
And you got
I,
taxes coming up.
I'm not a material. I mean, people would argue, but I'm not that materialistic, right? But I have some maintenance costs of what I do have, and I'm like, dude, I need to have some money, even if it's at the risk of me losing more money if I jump back in.
Yeah, I was talking about that with my wife. Like, 'cause we have a lot of cash on hand, and it's like that's just burning because it's inflation and all that. So we have no hedging. I was trying to think of through last night. Like, what do we do? Just throw a bunch in the stocks and
I
or
went, I
whatever. Or
I went
yeah,
all in on Amazon. So I still have my existing investments in crypto and like uh Nasdaq and Dow Jones, and that stuff was pretty spread out in regards to the stocks.
hmm
But then I took like a big bulk of what was in my account, and I'm like, F that. Not changing anything that I already have invested. I'm putting this whole load on Amazon. I feel like that's safe
yeah.
enough.
Disney's on a bit of a rally right now. That's
Is
that's
it?
one of my better ones that I've got. And I don't have a lot of money, and I got out of the crypto. Well, I still have some Bitcoin, but I got out of the rest of the crypto stuff. But
I haven't touched any of that. In fact,
Disney's at a
this is
really
my first
good.
time looking at my portfolio in like 6 months because I was freaking depressed every time I even heard about the downturn, the economic downturn within the stock market.
Yeah, wasn't it about time to buy then? Because you're at the bottom, so you know it's going to pop up in another
Yeah,
year. Yeah, I
I
looked at
mean
some
that's
stocks
what.
where it went like this. It went in
Oh
2001,
my
and then
God, coin.
2021, and then
My Coinbase investment, I lost like 70% on that. It was up like 12% yesterday when I say I literally just checked like my portfolio. Like after 6 months, I literally just checked it, and I took an L.
ooh, I was going to say, yeah, if you haven't looked at it in 6 months, you'd be probably pretty sad.
Yeah,
Although, like I said, I think we might have
bottomed.
just based on my yeah, of what I've seen, because I had some steady weeks of just nothing, and I don't have a lot of. I actually have most of my stuff in like these dividend yielding real estate ones. Like I don't have much, but I like getting like my little ding every month to say, hey, you got $1.21 from this guy and whatever for dividends. Um, but yeah, if you look at certain ones, it's like I think that they might have peaked at their bottom. So like, is it? I was looking at Disney yesterday because they've been on a bit of a rally, um, but um, if you look at like their historical trend, it's like they're usually way above where they are now. Um, let's see,
So would you rent
they're
out
almost to my.
if you live by a
Limit.
lake, would you rent out your ice fishing equipment?
Would I rent it out?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe. Not maybe not certain equipment, but um, like if because I'm gonna probably end up buying at some point in time a glacier ice house, which also is like an RV, so you can use it year round. And some people, what they'll do is they'll set them up on the lake and rent them as a sleeper overnight for like $150 a night or something like that, or $200 a night or whatever. People will
Mm.
come and like stay there for the weekend, like a almost like a VRBO type thing.
They don't have inflatables
For what?
for shelter when you're sitting on
Not an
a lake.
inflatable. I have a right now. I've got a it's called a trap. It's like basically like a tent. So it's a sled, And then what you do is you there's these bars that go across. You kind of like pull it up, and these bars extend out, and then they kind of goes over you. Clam is the company that makes. Well, there's other ones that Eskimo and some ones, but Clam ice shelters. Let me see if I can show you what I've got.
Um, so I got three JBL Flip Sixes and two JBL Boombox threes. I put three of the Flip Sixes on my mountain bike and bicycled at like 6 in the morning, disturbing the neighbors. They were really upset.
Oh,
Basically have a
jeez.
I basically have a car stereo on my mountain bike.
Oh, that would do it.
Thinking about getting a fourth one.
I want to say this is the one that I have. It might be the XL version of this.
So that's a shelter.
Yeah, these are. Yeah, this is probably closest to what I've got. Yeah, so it's basically you see back down in this section here. Well, I can show you the side view and all that. There's like a maybe they show it via the. Okay, so here's like it down. So you've got the two chairs, you've got the sled down here, and then you've got this thing, and this basically folds up over you, um, like this, and expands out into this.
Here's a stupid question. Does that float?
Probably not.
I was gonna like,
Um,
yo, I'll get that for South Beach.
no, I don't float. I guess the guy could probably trick it and put a couple
I mean,
pontoons, but it would be really like.
I don't know anything about buoyancy, but it doesn't look like it's broad enough its base to float.
Yeah,
But
no,
again,
it's a
I don't know
sled
anything about
with
buoyancy.
that, so I would assume not. But no, so I got this, and then what you get is I wonder if this will change if I yeah. So then I've got one of these portable heaters like this now that go in there, and it hooks up to a propane tank. So you sit in there, you're just nice and toasty and warm. Um, Man, then I went and I dropped like a grand on uh, between bought an auger like this Strike Master 40-volt ice auger.
So
Um,
you spent $1,000 to drill a hole through ice?
well, no, between this, which is like well, and a bunch of other little things, but between this and then I got uh, this is the other thing that's kind of expensive. FLX 20. This Vexlar, which is it's
Was it
called
a
a
generator?
flasher. No, this is like it's called a flasher fish finder. Basic. Oh, weird. It stopped presenting my screen.
I see it.
Oh no, never mind. I'm on the wrong. I opened it in a new tab. Um, Basically, what it does is it's like a sonar thing. So um, you see like these like bars here. If you look at this, so this will show you like it goes from the top of the water down to like the base right here, and then these would be called marks. Those are those are fish that you would see on your thing. So what you do is you drop your line, you'll see your lure go down and follow the track of the sonar down, and then you put them right around where the fish are. Then you start jigging or whatever, and you'll see these things start moving, and then you'll see them start to converge on your actual bait, and then you'll once you feel it, like you watch it, then you wait for the tug, and if you feel the tug, you pull your thing up, which sets the hook, and then you just start reeling them in. It's like a video game, actually. It's really fun when you have
Sounds
one
like
of
it's
these.
cheating.
Yeah, it is kind of cheated. Like you drive out there, you like what you do is you drill holes and then you drop your sonar down there and look for marks. And if you don't see any marks, you're like, oh, no fish here, and then you go off to another section until you find marks. Although my brother-in-law's uncle was saying that he's got this thing where he can like he puts his sonar down, it cones outward from there, and it will tell you like, oh, there's fish like 20 feet that way, go that way, and then you can go over there and do it. So it's pretty like accurate at finding fish, I guess. But yeah.
Mm.
So but I bought. You can see these are quite expensive, but I bought one of these. It's one of the things like you'll have to buy, once in your life for ice fishing, and then you've got it. But until it breaks or you want something better,
Have you considered getting a boat?
yeah, yeah. But I mean, this could work with a boat, but it for fish finding. But there's better fish finders for regular boats. So um, it's a whole nother cost sink.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, yeah, boats are.
get a
I,
raft.
I yeah, I'd rather have a pontoon than a boat, but they're hard to. You kind of like need a dock for a pontoon.
Let's get a Cuban raft. Let's get some tires.
I
Uh,
got a raft actually.
I we call them things that you put factory floor like packages on. Yeah, tires, a pallet,
Pallet with some
some
tires, or
Elmer's glue. You're good. So
yeah, something that says "Please don't send me back to Cuba" on it or something.
in Spanish.
Yeah. So yeah, I dropped a bunch of money on buying like uh, fishing gear for ice fishing. It's so weird though. It's like a 3 4 month uh, at tops like event you can do, and then if you're really cautious, you might want to do. You can do early ice and late ice or whatever, but um, like from January to February, end of February, you're pretty solid on ice in terms of fishing. But then like December, like you start to kind of pick up, so you can get some in December, and then March you can go for a while. But then in Minnesota, March is like um, March is like spawning season, or start March April spawning season or whatever. So you have to like you can't catch game fish. You got to catch only panfish, which I don't mind catching perch and crappies and stuff are fine. But yeah, it's this whole subculture out there of it. But basically, it's mostly an excuse to get out on the ice and drink a bunch of beer. So
There you go.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. Maybe I should dial you up for a session out on the ice.
That would be interesting
I don't know how StreamYard
and
works on the phone.
expensive. Well, your your data is going to the cost of data for streaming is probably
I
should be considered.
don't really have. I've got unlimited data as far as I know. It caps or it doesn't cap it. It's just a
Well, it's unlimited
throttle it
data,
at like
but
2 gig. But
it's unlimited data, but at what like bandwidth?
oh yeah, I don't know. The big question is are we roaming into Canada then? And I'm not sure what that does to my plan, but because it's where we're going is right on the Canadian border. Um, it's called Lake of the Woods. So Lake of the Woods, if you know Minnesota like geography, you know how there's that little like top part that kind of sticks into Canada like that much. It's
No,
like a
no
little.
one knows about the state of Minnesota.
Well, like if you're ever looking at the United States and you're
Michigan has the
following,
hand,
well, you're
but or
following
the
the top
glove.
of the United States, right? And you start here in Washington, and you're like, oh, look at how this straight line. You go over, was it Wyoming or Montana or North Dakota, and then you get to Minnesota, and it's like beep beep, and then it goes down to Superior.
Uh,
But that little beep beep, that little jump, that's where Lake of the Woods is. So there's like this section across from the lake that should be just Canadian, but for some reason it's in the U.S. It's got like a whole history behind it. But yeah, that's where we're going up in there. They actually have a bar that they set up out on the ice too, like some of these places do. It's a pretty big fishing like draw. A lot of people up there during the winter. So
I assume in regards to demographics, it's probably like 99% white or maybe Native American.
probably the
Yeah.
former.
I don't see people voluntarily being
You know,
cold.
maybe. But I mean, we don't have relative to like let's say the South. We don't have as many black people in Minnesota. I don't know.
Well,
I
I was
wonder
just
if we have.
saying brown, Asian, Indian. Like I don't see
Yeah,
anybody volunteering
Asian. I
to
mean,
be
we have
cold.
we have. Well, no, we've got a lot of people in the Twin Cities of many like cultures and stuff like that. But or many like historical cultures. They're all mostly Americans. But um, we actually have a huge Somali population now in
Yeah.
in the St. Cloud and cities area. that Ilan Omar or whatever. That's one of the representatives down in the cities. Um, I think she's Somalian, maybe. I don't know,
Why are
maybe.
they choosing Minnesota?
I don't know. I I
Mm,
don't know how they choose where to send like refugees. Like, do they just pick cities and say you got to host these people now, or do cities volunteer? Do they get money? I have no idea how it works.
I didn't know
Um,
they were refugees. I thought they were just coming out here getting married and bringing over their wives and starting families, and then bringing over their cousins, starting increasing their
no,
families.
no, we've got. I'm pretty sure most of the Somali people we have here, like the like first gens, are from refugees from the wartime over there. Um, we have actually a huge in the cities too, a huge Hmong population because there was a huge refugee. Um,
What's
pop,
Mon?
Hmong, there it's an Asian. I can't remember if it's what part of Asia they came from.
Oh, you mean Cambodia?
Uh, maybe Hmong are. I think they're like a near Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and so it's like a general group of people. Oh no, they were indigenous group of East and Southeast Asia and China. Hmong people are classified as a subgroup of the not Miao. Um, I don't know how to pronounce these. Yeah, but now they live in mostly in Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar. And but there is a large community in the U.S. comprising 300,000. Um, he said, I think we've got a large population um, of people of Hmong descent here now.
Oh, I want to
Um,
check it out.
yeah, there's like I
My,
think there's a whole part in Saint Paul that's like a whole village area down there. But um,
yeah, like in Cleveland, we have like maybe one block that's like predominantly Asian, or I think specifically Chinese. Miami, I don't think there's any Asian communities at all. Um,
yeah, so
we-
the the Hmong came here like into Saint Paul like 46 years ago, following the Vietnam War in 1975. Um, their migration was before that, but a lot came over during Vietnam. Yeah, they have, I guess, in St. Paul they have a Hmong New Year celebration, and there's a Hmong marketplace, and I don't know, it's pretty cool. Man, I like Asian culture. It's a little bit hard to get. It's a little bit hard to get like more used to like Somali culture though. Um, it's it's
why?
it's just I don't know. It's just it's difficult. There's maybe some I don't know. It's just difficult. They have a different like. I mean, I think that's just maybe their struggles were a bit harder. Because I mean, I don't know if Somalia is mostly abject poverty or whatnot, but um, it
It's a
just
failed state.
yeah, you rise people out of that, and I think it's just the like relationship to the people around them isn't as like you're not coming from a place. I don't know. I don't know. It's just it's something you have to like actively work against to be like no, it's fine. Like try to understand the culture and everything, and you know, um, because there's a general, I think most people are generally like, people would call you racist or whatever, but it's
Yeah, I feel like
it's
you're tiptoeing around something that you didn't
yeah,
say.
well, yeah, because it's not like I have any ill will towards anyone or anything like that. It's like a natural thing, I think, where people like the culture shock is so different, but it doesn't seem like unlike like Asian culture, which seems more interesting and there's a certain amount of like pleasantness to it. Like
I don't know why
it
I think
doesn't
about
feel as
the
much
movie
with
District 9.
Somalia. Yeah, that's maybe what it is. I mean, it's not. It just doesn't feel like it meshes well with. with like the way people of traditional Norwegian descent or like Scandinavian descent, which and German, which comprises a lot of Minnesota. Like it's just there's more of a culture clash, I think. Um, because I think and that makes sense to me because it's like if you think of Scandinavian people, they're fairly like um, uptight and clean and stuff like that. And I think that if you take Asian cultures, they're that way too. Just they're cultural, but Somalia Somalians, at least from like what I've seen, aren't in that way. And I don't say there's any qualitative like there's not a qualitative statement, or it might be wrong too. It might be completely wrong because I haven't had a lot of experience, but I just know that there's more of a like if you take just random people in Minnesota and like be like if you're gonna find the random people that you probably call racist, it'd be the immigrants that people don't like are the Somalians. That's
Yeah,
just that's how it is. And like I said, I don't know if it's just probably a first generation thing where they're coming from a world that's really tough, and by 1-2 generations all learn how to deal with each other and and then start to
I
appreciate each
don't
other and
I
all
don't
that.
think so.
Well, no, I mean that's I think that happened maybe with the Hmong too when they first came over. I mean, it's you get people over and you just drop a whole group of people into a different culture, and now everyone's got to kind of like learn to live with each other. And I don't think it's racism or anything like that. It's just, and it might come across that way, but
I mean,
it's
what's the
growing
difference?
pains. It's hard to like, yeah. But now
What's
it's like,
what's
yeah,
what's the difference between racism and and cultural
ethnocentrism.
stere and cultural stereotypes, right? And I mean, like,
Yeah, I guess yeah. There's also
it's
ethnocentricity, which is like your ethnicity is the best or
I've,
whatever, and
I've
yeah,
always asked the question: Black people, Jews. Why have the Jews been so successful? And even when there's documented history of atrocities or genocide, they're still on top. Black people can't use the excuse of, oh, the system is against us, which sure it is, right? We've been oppressed, 400 years of slavery, blah, blah, blah. But yet you have other cultures that have been through not the same, but very challenging um, journeys throughout history, and they tend to own a third of planet Earth, right? And so that's the part where, like, I swear to God, I think about this and I have conversations with other people, like probably 3 times a year. Like, what is it? What what can what can what can African American culture learn from Jewish people? And the only thing I could think of is the the Orthodox Jewish community. They have their own, which is probably why your racist groups despise them, is because they're more ingrained or intertwined with doing business with themselves, right? I feel as if they they have their own ecosystem in which they're barbers, they're I don't know, mechanics, they're bankers, they're whatever this stuff. I don't know. It's a poor example. Like they do business with each other, right? And that's their priority. Whereas like with with African Americans, like we don't have like this priority of we're going to build each other up and we're going to prioritize doing business with each other so that we can uplift each other. And then if we can't find that skill set, then we'll go outside of the African American community. We're not set up like that, which is, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out why they're so successful and we're not.
yeah.
But I'm sure that that's a factor, right? So
Well, I don't know, man. I think that there's if you look at a lot of well-to-do like groups, I don't think it has anything to do with Jewish people. I think it has to do with
what's
facing
organization?
because there's plenty of white people who can't. can't quote unquote pull themselves up by their bootstraps too. It has nothing to do with that. I think it's if you take the Jews coming out of Germany, and before that they were, they were, pretty well to do. Uh, that
Dude, I
in
have to.
general, the people are very very smart, but at least a certain subsect of them. But regardless of that, it's like you if you are hit with that much adversity, and then you come here and you have the freedom to drive your own path. Man, I think that they turn that around now. There's and I'm not saying I even know anything about this from, but my understanding is that Africans post slavery were starting on that path because they just got out of a major amount of adversity and they were starting to really strive. And then something happened that this is at least one explanation I've heard. So I don't want it. Something happened where now the state basically tries to convince you that you can't do things.
Well,
Like
those are Democrats,
it's
but
systematic. It's something you can't
so
control. It's
well,
outside of your ability. Rather than just going and striving, you're you'd get raised to believe that you just can't because the
yeah.
system's against you at all paths. Whereas when you're coming from adversity in Nazi Germany and coming here, and it's the land of opportunity, and nobody's going to tell you you can't. Um, that adversity becomes an asset, and I
Well,
think you see that with immigrant groups that are black too. Like the as much as like I said, the Somalia people, like they sure face a lot of distaste here from people. There's a lot of discrimination and stuff like that, but I guarantee you they're making their bed here. They're striving. They're going to there's going to be a whole like I'm sure in St. Cloud there's going to be a whole like Somali market. There's going to be like very successful entrepreneurs coming out of there. Same with every immigrant group
I
that
don't know.
comes from adversity. And actually, I think a lot of Spanish people same way. People that are coming out of Mexico, ones that can land here, and actually become citizens and stuff like that. All they're I think
actually
wow.
become citizens.
No, I mean, well, no, you know what I mean. Like once they
Yeah, yeah,
escape
yeah.
and actually
Well,
become citizens here, like you get like they take off, because they know
well,
what it's like.
take this into consideration. When you think about ethnicities and you think about institutional industries within America, what I think about is I'll relate the Italians to the fire stations. Um, I relate the Irish.
Not you don't relate them to the waste management
I think that
industry.
was I think that was later on towards like
uh,
the 70s and 80s. But
with
during
the
the
mob.
like Roaring Twenties, which I wasn't there,
Yeah,
but based on the
you're in
content
the
that I
roaring 20s
consume,
right now.
almost yeah, pretty much. I associate the Italians with America giving them command and control of the fire stations. I relate the
In New York,
Irish
maybe.
with America giving them command and control of law enforcement or police stations.
In Boston, maybe.
Well, it started in the East Coast and then it pushed out west, right? I know that this happened before the Roaring Twenties, but I'm
Hmm.
saying you associate a culture uh, or ethnicity with with an institution within America. In regards to the Chinese, I'm not sure what America gave them.
No, see,
But
I don't associate. I mean, there might be a mild association with Italians and waste management, just because that's like how that was like at least popularized by
the mob.
the mob, yeah, and then like solidified with that HBO show, The Sopranos, who's in waste management,
Oh, I
but
never
I
saw
don't think
that.
of
I just remember.
I think that there are towns that have heavy Boston, like Boston have a heavy Irish heritage or whatnot, and so and so that's why I would think of Boston cops being from of Irish descent, but that's limited to Boston. I don't think of that anywhere outside of. there. I mean, I've got Irish descent in
You,
me
you don't
now.
think that's in Cleveland? You don't think that's in Chicago? You don't think that's in a majority of major cities? Those dynamics or
At least
demographics?
not when you get out here, I suppose. I don't know any Irish cops. Like maybe
Okay.
some of partial Irish descent, but like we're mostly Scandinavian, German out
Yeah.
here. Um, and that's about, I mean, mostly. And then there's a bunch of like, I wonder what the Minnesota demographics are even like anymore.
Yeah. And then the other factor is like what percentage of people of color, specifically of African ancestry, grow up with a mom and a dad in the same household versus
Yeah,
any other
yeah,
culture. And we are probably at the bottom, right? We are last. And there's some factors such as like the war on drugs that basically, I mean, it's a
yeah. That
factor,
did a lot.
right?
Yeah,
It's a factor. But I think that's probably, honestly, real talk, I think that's one of the biggest factors. Whenever I'm in South Beach and I got like somebody with me and we're just taking a stroll down Ocean Drive, I'm like, hey, look at all these people, right? This is like National Geographic. I guarantee you, 80% of these clowns that we see right here have no father. I could tell. Look at him. Look at that one right there, right? You could tell he has no father influence, or she has no father influence in their life, right?
hmm,
And like, I know I'm right, right? And I think that's one of the major factors. Which, how do you correct that? I mean, they say
yeah,
statistically within the United States, based on records, that
yeah. You know
black
that.
women are the lowest when it comes to the marriage rate. Right? They're least likely to get married compared to white, Indian, Asian. I still
Yeah.
think Indian and Asian are two different races. But
What?
anyway,
What are
so
two?
people correct me when I say Asian and Indian
Oh yeah, they're
because
they're. Well, I get what you're saying because
yeah, it's two
Indians
different
are
cultures, right?
from Asia, but they're distinct from, like,
Yeah,
if you look at the average Indian and the average, like, broader Asian, Eastern Asian or whatever, they're definitely, because it used to be, and is it bad? No, it's bad now to say Oriental, isn't it? Because that
I've been
that would have
told
been
that.
a, yeah, because that, I didn't know that would even be bad. Like, what? Because it's been, is it because the Orient is like the term for it from like a imperialist standpoint? Like when did like Oriental become?
I don't know. Can you say, "Hey, I'm about to go pick up an Oriental rug. Do you want anything while I'm out?" Like, is that bad?
I don't know. I just, like, I don't know.
Uh,
That's why it's so hard. Like if you try to limit your speech, it's like you can. Did you know that, like, so, like,
there's still people that refer to black people as colored.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'll raise
yeah,
an eyebrow because I just. But I mean,
yeah. I always
it's
trip
not
up to.
offensive.
I don't even know what to say anymore. When I trip up trying to be like, oh yeah, I've got this guy that I talk to. I know it's like, and then, like,
Well, when white people say
sometimes I'll,
African American, it raises my eyebrow too because I feel like
yeah.
they're trying to be extremely careful, as if they're
What should
hiding
I say?
something.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing is, like, how do you,
Say
like, oh,
black.
he's my black friend. He's the guy that I talk to. Um,
He's black.
he's my token black guy that I talk to on Friday mornings.
Uh,
No,
he
so I can
speaks so
hide my
well.
so I can
He
hide
speaks
my
so
real
well.
racism against. Yeah, he's
Uh,
so articulate. Yeah,
he's black
he's.
and he speaks well. Really. That's always the next thing that I've noticed. That no one ever refers to an Asian or a white person as speaking well or is eloquent. It's always an educated black person where they
Oh,
have to they have to announce that he speaks well or she speaks well.
oh yeah. I don't know about announcing. Like, you might observe, like, that there's definitely eloquent speakers, just in general, and there's not eloquent speakers.
Well, I
Like
mean, they
George Bush wasn't
Obama
an eloquent speaker at all. Obama was a very eloquent speaker, but that's just speaking to their speaking ability.
But so was Reagan. But I don't
Yeah.
hear like over and over again. Oh, Reagan, he speaks so well.
No, you
No,
know
but
what
it was the
though?
fact that Obama was black that that's what you always heard. Oh, he speaks well, as if.
Well, he was a very good speaker, but regardless of his race. But you know what? The flip side of that you don't see too is that if you're a poor speaker and you're white, that is something you get trashed for though. Like, um, it much more probably it's more expected that you should be more of an eloquent speaker. Um,
I mean, they would.
George Bush
That,
got this a ton. He wasn't an eloquent
I
speaker.
only remember one with George
Nuclear,
Bush.
yeah,
We're talking about
no,
George Bush the second, right?
second, yeah,
Where he said he's the decisioner, and I think that's a real word, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But it wasn't just that. He was just not as like, he just wasn't an eloquent speaker at
he was a
all. Like,
he was a cowboy.
yeah, yeah, and he spoke with that kind of, and he got, people would call him an idiot for that, just stupid and idiot, and it's like, and they would always point to the way he spoke, like about things, and I'm like, just because he's not an eloquent speaker doesn't mean he's not intelligent. There's plenty of people who aren't eloquent speakers who are very, very intelligent, but yeah, no, you get a bit more slammed if you. I think it's more expected that you're not going to be speaking non eloquently if you're white, um, and that's how you tell the white trash. They're the ones who don't speak right, you know, or don't speak violently. They're always throwing
The people
the
in
swear
Virginia,
words, and they have to
hillbillies.
search for words. Yeah, we're expected to have a better vocabulary and all of this stuff. It's or like the standards are higher. So that's maybe how it is um is like I bet you if you take the non-introspective person who thinks about this and like this total thing, they think that white people who speak bad it's because they're kind of trashy, and then but if it's a black person, that's because that's just normal, and it's because they've been put down and blah blah blah. And then when you find a black person who speaks like eloquently like a white person does, then they like, oh, it's I can't I've never met someone who speaks so eloquently. It's like, no,
Hmm.
they're just speaking according to your standards that you set for. Yeah, there's this whole like weird stuff around, man. It's fun to think about, like, and talk about this stuff, but I think that's it's much better than just yelling at people on the internet and being like, you're all racists and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think it's exhausting. I can't wait till aliens invade so we can stop focusing on our differences.
Yeah, or we converge into the eventual like super race, isn't it? Where it will be a combination of all.
Well, that's what
Isn't that
your
supposed to
white
happen?
nationalists are trying to stop. Like freaking
Yeah.
black studs keep freaking getting with our white women and producing mulattoes and diluting the white vote. Like that's what they're trying to
I
prevent.
can't imagine that's just white people though. That's just the only people that get demonized for it.
Hold on, which part? What are we talking about?
About about quote unquote crossbreeding into different races. Like the
Oh,
expectation is that in what, like 2,000 years or something like that, the human race is going to be
dude,
homogenous or whatever.
I have my conspiracy theory that I honestly believe, and I will get deplatformed if I told you online. I'll tell you offline. I'm dead serious. Like they, you see it every day, and I believe that 80% of the people are blind to it because they're just monkey see, monkey do. But I think 20% it is actual it's an actual strategy to dilute black and brown votes by encouraging them not to reproduce by using
Oh,
trends.
yeah, yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at, and
And yeah, and
yeah,
so like that's a conspiracy that I believe, but I'm dead
it's not
serious.
even a
I really do
conspiracy.
believe that.
That's like, and it's not it might be
If
hyper
you can't
focusing.
sterilize them, make it cool to encourage them to not be able to not reproduce voluntarily. That is
Yeah,
the strategy.
Yeah, it's like a it's probably hyper focused now, but that's like the World Economic Forum's message, right? Is to they want to reduce the amount of mouths to feed on the earth, and I don't know if they're using these kinds of methods to do that or what. But it's certainly like because they're like actually, if you listen to the you might find it listening to the last Joe Rogan experience with Jordan Peterson on it because he talks about kind of the World Economic Forum and the story they tell about trying to like he describes it very eloquently. Jordan Peterson's a very eloquent for a white guy, Canadian, but um, but he describes like the story that they tell as being like um, if you go kind of a step behind it, it's like there's the virgin earth who's getting raped by humanity and how we can maintain its natural beauty and stop the raping is by reducing humanity's presence on Earth. And to do that, they have to do it by encouraging people not to breed and stuff like that. But then there's other ones like it's where that's a real concern about population collapse because all of a sudden your major economies will go. Um, there was another one I watched where it's like, yeah, China's like 10 years out from like a catastrophe. Although they'd probably start just having forced breeding, which would
I
be
mean, but
crazy.
they I thought they banned boy bands.
They probably did. I don't know, man.
Yeah, they want. I mean, if that is true, and I've heard it a number of times, like they're interested in raising men for their military objectives or to have military influence. They need men, right?
Yeah,
And hey,
yeah, yeah. Hard times. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so but they're starting like an alternative, or he's starting like an alternative to the WEF, where it's a consortium that they're trying to give like an alternate story where we're not we're not the rapers of virgin earth or whatever, and that um, focus more on the idea of like um, how do we get people out of poverty by making energy available to everyone as cheaply as possible, and then because it says like the idea is like once you get people out of poverty, once they start scrapping around in the dirt for scraps, and that's metaphorically that then you do start to see people start to take care of their environment more, right? If we're not struggling for basic necessities, then we start to turn towards natural beauty and conservation of the world around us. So places get gentrified to a certain extent, but gentrification is just it's affluence coming in, and people like to see things that are beautiful and at, harmonious with nature and stuff like that. But you shouldn't expect that of people who are sitting here energy deprived that don't have food. Like and the actually one of the biggest ones is like with climate change and all this stuff is that Africa would get hit, one of the hardest places to get hit by this stuff because you're trying to shut off all of their Africa's ability to produce power and stuff. It's a totally like if you look at what people who get cast as like Jordan Peterson gets cast as a total outright nut, right wing nut job, but he's not. They present a very positive look at humanity and a very like compassionate view of humanity too, and trying to actually truly find ways to raise people out of poverty and stuff like that. So, um, and
oh
it's
no, it's it boggles my mind that Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate.
don't even put those two in the same bucket though. They're totally different
Well,
buckets.
well, the bucket is that they're influencers that use logic,
Yeah,
not feelings. They use logic, and it's it's just fascinating that these people get deplatformed or risk being deplatformed for just sharing logical ideas.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Like if you ever listen to Andrew Tate, like I probably disagree with maybe 10% of what he says, in which that 10% borderline offends me. But like he's extremely logical, but people don't want to listen to that. All right. Hence, that's why the majority of Earth's population is religious because they don't really want to use logic. They just want to use feelings. So,
Yeah. Although I think Peterson now I think he might be religious now. I can't remember where he landed. I feel like he landed back on the
uh, uh,
spectrum there, but
well, probably because of him losing his mind,
yeah.
and it's probably easier, especially if you take into consideration the placebo effect, and you relate that to prayer for your mind or your body or anatomy to be more at ease when you're able to put that burden on some other entity versus holding all that on your shoulders.
Yeah. It's
Mm,
interesting, like is prayer just a like prelude to meditate? I mean, they are very similar, but I don't know. I think it's all a simulation. Just all of it.
yeah, you
And
keep mentioning that.
it frickin' it every day you find more, like if you start to look for the evidence of it, like every day you'll get convinced more and more. Like so there's a new theory. I was watching something the other day about a new theory of what comprises like uh matter and stuff like that. And there's like, so like you take like a proton or whatever is this, just really tiny. Or if it was the size of the earth, this would be the size of a proton, the thing that makes it up. And they're these little triangular, God, what are the three-dimensional triangles called? They're called like,
A
uh,
pyramid or no, no. Yeah, pyramid.
no, well, yeah, it's a pyramid shape, but there's another name for it, like the formal name for it. But they make up the proton or whatever like that. Is really a neat like video, but you get down to it, it's like, oh, that's just like polygons within a computer simulation. I mean, is how it's constructed. So you put, it's just, what boggles my mind is just how complex the computing power would have to be, um, to produce the lifelike simulation that we have. But I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of stuff that's saved.
Why would it have to be powerful? I mean, you take into
I guess we
consideration
don't know what's outside of our own
Conway's
world.
Conway's
Yeah.
game of life. You don't think that there's something there about you? You have a few simple rules, and you hit the start button.
Well, I mean, just the computing power, but then again, we don't know what's outside of our own existence. So energy might be infinite and or infinitely available outside of our own like understanding of reality. So if you put new rules into a simulation, like you can choose what the rules are. You can say gravity works this way. You could say this works, but perhaps those don't even apply to. The problem is the problem with simulation theory is though is it's still a problem, right? So it's like who created the simulators, or how were the simulators created? Like it's just it's a
And that's
recursive
why,
problem.
yeah, and that's
Actually, God
why.
is that way too. God's the same thing. It's a recursive. God is just the entire conception of God is just that it's the start. It's the unmoved mover that you can't recursively go back forever to in a creative capacity, right? So why does anything exist at all? Well, because of God. Why does God exist? Oh, he just exists. Like
Yep,
it's the start. It's the unmoved mover. It's
which is a valid argument for atheists to say that
yeah,
the universe had no beginning if God had no beginning.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
are you are
Basically,
you are you hip to Modern Debates YouTube channel?
no, no. But
You
yeah,
would be interested in that because they put they have Muslims debate atheists, they have Christians debate atheists, and atheists. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but even if you look at the comment thread, atheists win pretty much every single time
yeah. It's
because
I don't know. I could believe that there's like atheism in depth, like, but there could be like a first degree of theism though, where there are people of So if you define theism as there's a higher power that's influencing, our existence, like I believe that you can't argue against that in terms of in any way that would win.
Yeah, but the so
It's
when you think about the definition of a debate,
oh yeah,
I would argue that it relies on logic. And so if you have a devout Christian or a devout Muslim trying to use logic to say that their faith is or their religion is the one and only true religion and is backed by God
yeah,
through this
oh yeah, you
2,000-year old,
can't.
they lose every single time because they'll say, look, it says here in the scriptures that the earth is round and hangs upon nothing. Okay,
Yeah,
well, just because it says it in there does not make
yeah,
the
they just
book.
don't have the appropriate people arguing. Like there are, I mean, the thing is, there can be. I think that anybody who's, like I said, intellectually honest about it is an agnostic. Now, I guess though, the more I think about it, though, atheism makes sense in terms of like like an finale. Like if you go many steps removed from us, like eventually you end up with nothing. You end up with nothing, right? There has to be like it can't be recursively always. Oh, like unless you, I don't even know how you would. Maybe our brains just can't comprehend that. Is the problem? We always have to believe there's a start to every sort of cause and effect type relationship. But
Mm.
but but in terms of like a first degree of like there's a higher power in general. Like there's no way an atheist can argue that in any way that actually proves that or
Well,
whatever because there's no way to know.
I'm
The only
a
the only honest way to think about it is to say that we can't know or we don't
so
know and we might not be able to know.
so here's one of the contributors for me going from agnostic to borderline atheist. Almost all faiths, in fact, I don't know of a faith that doesn't say that God is all knowing, right? They all assume that God is singular and there can't be armies of gods that contribute to what we observe today. But anyways, um, here's the thing. All these religions, for the most part, they all encourage the belief that God is perfect, God is all knowing, God has infinite wisdom. Okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Here's the interesting thing. Wisdom, I would argue by definition, is acquired through experience.
yeah, and failure.
Exactly. So that begs the question, if God is perfect, does that mean that God has never learned?
Ah, fair enough. Like I
And
totally get all those arguments that you can't
yeah,
be like I try to tell my daughter this too. I'm like so that you, she's like I believe in this. I'm like well why? Because I don't even know how I don't teach her this. Um, and I go why? And it's like and then I'll say well okay so take this then. Do you believe in hell? It's like I'm like well the thing is if there's an all loving God who's all powerful who puts you on earth and knows your future and has the choice to not create you if they know that your eventual like you're going to eventually produce a situation where you're going to burn in infinitely um in suffering then like are they actually all loving or would they be better to just like putting down a euthanizing an animal to take it out of its misery just not creating you in the first place. And then it's like so you start to go down these like logical inconsistencies, right? Which is true of that. I think you have to get to a meta level with religion though and stop focusing on like to have an honest conversation about it you have to get over the the like cultural and historic like layers that are over religion and start to just look at the foundational arguments for it. And that's where like
well,
that's
so
why I
the
like simulation theory because it hasn't been thought of before or like it wasn't thought of until recently. So there
here's
isn't these like layers
I
of
don't know.
like dogma over it.
One of my biggest counter arguments that people kind of get offended about is when when I when I consider the Old Testament of the Bible, God appears to be more human than God. Okay, it's as if within the Old Testament, God, his only reason for creating humanity is so that he can be worshipped. Meaning that if the dinosaurs didn't have capacity to worship, God got frustrated, wiped out the dinosaurs, created great apes instead, specifically humans, so that he could be worshipped. And so, if that's the sole reason for human beings being on this earth is to worship a grand creator
Yeah,
that
God's a
requires
narcissist.
exactly, it's like
Yeah,
that begs the question: is
he's
God
infinitely narcissistic.
insecure
Yeah,
based on the Old Testament? And if the only reason you think about Rashak, Meshach, and Abednego, and you think about all these other stories, and you think about um, you know, idolatry and how that's forbidden. Why is that forbidden? Well, because God wants to be worshipped. He doesn't want you to manufacture other materials and then worship that. It just kind of shows the character that the Old Testament portrays of a sovereign Lord,
hmm
which is kind of contradictory. If they're all knowing, infinite wisdom, absolutely perfect, why are they so obsessed with being worshipped by us little ants, right?
yeah. Have you ever? So here's another way that I've conceptualized this now is like, what if in our reality, if you took a simulation approach to it, what if God is the admin? Like, you've ever played games with admins in it before, like Counter Strike or like
No, is that similar to like
Minecraft or anything?
SimCity or something?
No, so like Minecraft, for instance, like you might jump on a Minecraft server and you've got one person who's the admin who has the ability to run the scripts that do can override anything in the game, right? In the sim. And then you got people who are otherwise constrained by the rules. Um, and so the admin has a certain level of power, and you have to make sure that you don't piss off the admin, or and you have to appease the admin, or they can do shit to you. Which basically, if you take that kind of like relationship of playing a video game with an admin in it and apply it to early like accounts of like God and how he was conceptualized, there's a lot of similarities. Like he can make the world do shit. Like um, he can part the Red Sea by running the script that says "sea in front of me part," you know 50 degrees axis, whatever, and then like he can decide to just like run a command to break down the Tower of Babel and like or whatever. Um, and I don't know. I mean, maybe Jesus was like maybe Jesus was like maybe God grew up and he's no longer wants to be the admin of this world he created, so he gave it to his son Jesus, who like came in and was like, I'm gonna play by the rules of everyone else. And then he got crucified and was like, screw this, dad, I'm not playing this fucking game no more. And then just left. Now there is no God in Jesus anymore. And maybe that was all true before. Like all the shit actually happened. And now the server's just running itself. And people are just doing without any admin.
I think that makes sense because
It's
I've
weird.
always used the illustration of when I was a teenager, I had an aquarium and I used to maintain fish, right? And then I kind of got bored. I wasn't as interested in maintaining my fish tank, so I just left it alone. Occasionally, I would throw like some breadcrumbs in there, but I stopped maintaining it. And so I look at planet Earth as a really big aquarium. And there's other planets in other galaxies that are also really big aquariums. And if you can imagine that me as a teenager maintaining that fish tank is analogous to God, which although people believe is perfect, I don't think there's a credible argument to believe so, especially we if we have to learn in order to be able to create or make decisions that work out, that maybe exactly what you said, it was maintained and then the maintainer moved on to other things. But
Yeah.
but 99% of human beings, they can't fathom that that the world doesn't revolve around us. That like
Yeah.
they can't understand that, oh, these aliens are cooler than us humans, or this alien race. Yeah, as God, I'm gonna invest my time in them. I'm done with these
No.
humans.
No, I
Like
mean,
they
if
can't
we're in a,
fathom that.
we
Like
could be in a sandbox game where we were created by a god, and then they set everything up. They just got bored with the simulation, and they so like their first attempt was like, hey, I'm gonna make dinosaurs. I'm gonna build this world, put some dinosaurs on it. These look cool. Nah, these aren't like I want to create like intelligent things. I'm gonna wipe these out. Throws a comet down on Earth. Boom, done. All right, now I'm gonna make these people, and I'm gonna be their god. I'm gonna pretend like that. So I'll do all these like cool things. Um, although this starts to fall apart. Although actually it doesn't, because he could say, and I'm going to be a different god in different places, and I'm going to, because you have different cultures around the world that all fell into a certain level of theism, and then like, but then like he just gets bored, and then like starts to like, then his son takes over. And now then the son like dies and is like screw this game, and now we're just like this server out here that's running on autopilot, and it's just running the simulation. And one day somebody is going to be like, that data server is taking a bit too much energy. Let's shut that off, and we're just going to get shut down, and all of everything will just be done in a second. I mean, just nuts. Maybe that's
have
all
you
we are. We're a forgotten server
have you ever
of
studied cargo
simulations.
cults?
Yeah. Well, not studied them. I'm aware of the term Culver called, but
That's kind of what I'm thinking about as you're relaying this. Something that was valid, historical, and was I don't know if institution is the right word, no longer exists. Yet people that lack understanding of how, they're still trying to reproduce it by 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 using similar practices that are no longer relevant, right? So I think with cargo cults, it was like when the imperialist United States started taking over islands and using them as bases for supply chains and stuff like that. And the local economy on these islands amongst the natives or indigenous people started to, I don't know, the people started benefiting from it. And
mhm.
then they didn't know the why operations ceased, but the white man left, the garbage remained, but there was no longer canned food, there was no longer the benefits, but they decided to continue dressing up as air traffic controllers, waving stuff or whatever they did in the 1940s, because that's what they saw, and they saw the cause, and they saw the effect from 12 months ago to 36 months ago, but they couldn't understand the context,
Yeah,
right? And I kind of feel like that's
that's
how
right.
religion
Yeah,
is today. Like people still dress up in costumes. Majority of women are the ones that tend to believe them, which draw in the men to support them. But there's no like evidence. It's just people dressing up and other people that want to believe, and they sing songs and they do all these practices, even though God moved on to an alien race that's more interesting. So
yeah, or just forgot about the server. Like I said, the more I think about this, the more it's like you could conceive God as like this no this kind of like brutal like overlordy type admin of the server, right? Like who's just like you got to appease this admin or you're gonna be fucked. Like you know, he's gonna fire brimstone. Like when you leave the server, man, he's gonna swat you. He's gonna whatever. So it's like you appease them, and then he gets bored. So then his son comes in, and his son's like, "I hate my dad. I'm gonna be all loving, and you don't have to do anything." And then once he did that, then all the people on the server were like, "Fuck this, let's kill him." So they killed the admin, and then the guy's like, "Dad, this game sucks. I'm not gonna play it no more." And then they just left the computer on. And now they're eating dinner, maybe because, like, what if time is totally skewed and the entire existence of God was like him working on this for like, let's say, like a day? Because you could just imagine an alien race that's sits above a simulation or something like that, who's just infinitely more like has infinitely more ability than you could imagine yourself having. And then like the son and them, they go eat supper, and then when they come back, they're gonna shut the damn server off, and that's like the end of the world. Dude, I don't know. I like conceptualize. There's so many things when you break free of like traditional like concepts of what this thing, and especially if you start applying simulation, you can make everything make sense. Another thought is that like dinosaurs were a fabrication of the simulation, to try to explain or try to introduce conflict about the history of the earth. Like they didn't actually used to be there, and suddenly they were just created because they needed an excuse to try to explain things so that a certain trajectory can be followed. Like you'd spawn in any sort of thing into a simulated world. Um,
Well, wouldn't that support some of the Catholic leadership belief system of they were deposited into that ground to test your faith?
yeah, literally, that could be a reality, though. I mean,
No, it can't.
yeah, it could be. That admin could be an asshole. Be like, oh, I'm gonna put those dinosaurs here to see if they still believe in me, and if not, I'm gonna delete them, shut
but
off
but
their server.
but how does how simulation theory, does it not still have to conform with the laws of physics as we know it?
No, no, because the laws of physics are applied to our simulation. If you make a simulated game, right? If you make a VR game, let's say, you get to decide what the physics are. There are no limitations
Yeah, but we know what the physics are within our solar system.
within our simulation. We don't know at the meta level outside of our simulation what the physical world is
Yeah,
like
but
at all.
we know that the fossils, regardless of them being dinosaurs or trilobites, whatever that word is, we know that there's a process in order for something to be recognized or observed. You can't bypass that.
Yeah, you can if you're a server admin.
Okay.
Everybody in Minecraft has to follow the rules of Minecraft, except for the server admin. Can do whatever the fuck they want in Minecraft. They can
That would
turn
be
gravity
called
on. They can turn gravity off. They could
Yeah, but then that
spawn
would be called
trilobites.
but that would be called magic.
Yeah, it is basically. It's or what's the difference between like magic and some sort of all powerful being doing
So
things?
so since we've had technology to record, whether it's audio or audio video, when have we scientifically observed or recorded magic? We haven't within the last 150 years.
Quantum entanglement. That's
That's a
magic.
theory. That I don't even think that is that not still a theory. That's not law.
They've proven it now though. That was what the Nobel Prize was, is that you had things two you could have two quantum entangled particles across the universe and they don't have any causal relationship, but they move
They have not
predictably.
proven that because they can't. The furthest that they could put a man-made object is where one of the Voyagers are, and that's still within our gal. I mean, that's it's barely outside of our solar system. So they haven't proven it at all. They've done
Yeah.
it inside of a lab.
Yeah. Gamma, well, any quantum effect is has been done in a lab, but um, yeah, it's this is totally simulation theory. Actually, all sort of religious stuff is all philosophical. It's not scientific whatsoever. You can't prove it because it's like, but that's not the point. It's more of like it's philosophical. It's like, why are we here? There's no scientific reason why anything should exist at all, and there never will be. So you can only philosophically think about it. Even the Big Bang, it's like there's something before the Big Bang, right?
Well,
Why is
if you
anything
believe in the
happen?
Big Bang as being the
Oh
answer,
yeah, that might not even be real too. But regardless, it's like stuff's been here forever, existent or non-existent, comes in and out of matter, whatever. Like there's nothing you can prove about that in the long term. Like there's like unless it's observable, and then we can't even trust what we observe because of quantum like shit that you get into. Like if
no,
you're
but
observing
the
it, it acts
quantum is
differently.
yeah, but the quantum is at a molecular level. That's not general like physics. That's like atoms,
Yeah,
right? That have
that's physics.
that's a completely different. That has a completely set of rules
Yeah,
compared to life forms, even like ants, right?
yeah. I got to run here. I got to stand up in a minute. So,
All right, we'll
but
catch up. See ya.
yep, we'll see you in a week. Yep. Bye.
Bye, gambler. Adios. Bye. I'm out too.